So after 11 seasons of a show like Shameless, there have to be some takeaways. There have to be reasons why a show would run for 11 seasons, even through COVID. The most logical reason I can think of is how successful the show was financially, among other things. But if you look at the remake of Shameless and the remake of The Office, all from UK originals, you realize that the US did the remake and then they became massively successful or more successful than the originals. I think it was a massive success because it was made for a US audience by the US. Now, hear me out. I can't lie. I realize how disconnected my culture is from the American way and how disconnected the American one is from the rest of the world as well. But I'm not blind. It was a great show. It was a really, really great show. Some strong performances from Jerry Allen White and Emily Rossum sprinkled here and there. But I want to look at the show from three perspectives, from three characters' perspectives. Frank, Fiona and Debbie, and Kev and V. I'm going to group Fiona and Debbie, and I'm going to group Kev and V. I think these guys were the most important in the show for me and to me. First up, Frank. Now, Frank is your typical American. He's entitled to all the good things in the world. Take, and keeps on taking. It made me realize what the showrunners were doing with making Southside Chicago a character as well in the show by highlighting what and how technology and urbanism did to the Southside spirit, as Frank liked to call it. And ultimately, that is what Frank cared about throughout the show. The South, because the South Side spirit gave him that agency to be irresponsible because America had him covered, because the system had it covered. But you realize, like in his later years and in the latter seasons, what he thought about family, and especially in his relationships with Liam and Franny, his grandchildren. No, Liam was his son, which I still don't get. I don't know if someone gets how a black kid is born into a family of like white people or is born by two white parents. I don't know. Like he's not like mixed. He is full black, like African kind of black. And his parents are both white. And they never addressed it. So that's weird. But anyway. But ultimately he was a tough act to watch because it only paints at my reality of how people like me outside America don't have that agency or luxury of just existing and expecting everything to turn out fine, turn out just fine because of a system. When the truth is, in my part of the world, you work twice as hard to be just fine. It's like to be okay, to survive, you have to work twice as hard. So, Frank, me, I did not like at any point of the show. Fiona and Debbie, yes. Fiona and Debbie were also quite interesting to watch because they also embodied throughout a very American thing, the lack of accountability. And I shouldn't have to explain this. We all know the US history and geopolitics and everything. Fiona shielded the family in the parents' absence until she decided to have a life for herself. And when she decided that life was too hard and she couldn't find anyone to blame but herself, she left. Literally, the character left the show. Because there are reports or I think she said the wage gap and a lot of things about how she felt about how the showrunners were treating her and her profession and all of that. So she had to leave. She had to leave the show, but the setup to it didn't do her character justice. Debbie, on the other hand, made objectively bad choices every single time for herself and for everyone around her, and would just like crash the fuck out when no one would take the blame with her or like help her out. Okay, at this point, I think I've established why the characters are unlikable, but here's some more. Kev and V. So you can't mask being a shitty person by playing dumb. The I married the black woman song, cool type of white man. That's Kev. But did he whitewash V like V's auntie said? Like that's an interesting question to think about. But you could also look at it, or you could also think about V's choices and her abandonment and deep-seated neglect issues, and why she stuck with Kev because he was just there. But in conclusion, I think she was the token black character from the start. They tried to make it work. They tried to change it by the middle of the show, but me ultimately didn't change. She was just the token black character in a white man's story. I do think it's a great show, and I stand by it because I keep saying great characters in TV are those who never change their fundamental beliefs. They have core principles and stick to it no matter what. So yeah, the Gallaghers, with the exception of Carl and the Milkoviches, were in fact quite strongly written. Like well written. In fact, I'll put them toe to toe with the houses and the characters from Game of Thrones and how those characters were written as well. Anyway, this is my unsolicited review of Shameless and whether you should watch it or not.